Builder! What is this? This is the LivePro L1. It's a 4 HDMI input switcher that you can use for live streaming or even recording through OBS. Cost about $300. It's got a built-in reference monitor, so you don't need any extra setup if you want to keep a small footprint. It's got built-in effects like fades, wipes, you can even do picture-in-picture modes. It can output to a maximum 1080p, 60 frames a second. Do I recommend it? If you want simple, basic, all-in-one streaming solution that never requires you to hook up to a computer app, yes. Done. Roll that intro. Hey, what's going on, everybody? You're watching Too Long Didn't Read Filmmaker, where the answers comes first, the reasons come last, but we're constantly and always still learning. So today we're going to find out whether or not this Feelworld LivePro L1, which is an HDMI mixer specifically made for live streaming, is going to be the right solution for you and your overall live stream setup. And I want to thank Feelworld for sending this out to me so I can provide you with my review today. Now, basically, this is all done live right here, and it's going into OBS, which I am recording through. And that's definitely kind of fun. I've never done this before. But basically, I'm going to go over some overview. I'm going to kind of go through the menus, give you a little walkthrough, give you my opinion. But the one major question I want to know is, can I actually use this unit without ever touching the software app that you can load onto your desktop and or laptop? Because I'm a little old school. I want to be able to do everything on the unit itself. I don't want to tether it to something else just so I can do some major controls. So this entire video is going to be done without ever touching the app because I've never downloaded it. So this is exactly what you can expect. This is exactly what you can expect if you never want to touch the app. So without further ado, let's go over to the top-down view right here. As we can see, we have 4 gorgeously huge buttons, which allows us to switch between our sources. Now, only 3 of them are lit up because I'm only using 3 sources, 2 cameras and 1 laptop. Now, let's go over to the sides real quick. So on one side, we have this LAN port here, which can go into a router, and basically through the software app, you can do a whole bunch of stuff as well as doing firmware upgrades through the LAN port. Next, we have a USB port over here, and this is what's connecting into my laptop currently, in which I am recording. And of course, if you want to stream out, you can do it that way too. Basically, this is telling a computer, this is a webcam, and OBS will understand it, as well as Zoom and everything else. Next, we have the audio in port, and basically from here, you can actually plug in, let's say, a mixer, maybe a microphone, what have you. Any audio source you can put in there. Just know that because of HDMI protocols, your camera and your audio, if you choose to use the external, is not going to line up, and in OBS, you're going to have to do some audio latency to make sure that those sync up nicely for your stream. Last but not least, we have an audio out, and that's pretty self-explanatory, so you can actually hear what's going on through your streams. Now moving to the back, this is where the magic happens, as we have 5 total HDMI ports. 4 of them are for your input sources, and the final one is for an HDMI output, so you can see what's actually going on. As you can see right here, you can plug in a little monitor. This is known as preview mode. Basically, you see that I have 4 sources on the bottom, and the left side is what's currently queued up, and the right side is what's actually going out on stream. So pretty similar to just live broadcasting. Last but not least, when it comes to actually powering this thing, we have a 12-volt DC port that is locking. Now, there is no on and off button that I could figure out on this system. So literally, you have to plug it in to turn it on and then unplug it if you want to turn it off. So now let's go through the menu systems real quick so you know what to set up and stuff like that. So going to the top-down menu here, we're going to go ahead and click menu. And to navigate the menu, we simply use this to jog up and down. So right here, we're going to go into input, and this basically tells us, hey, all your sources as of right now are 1080p at 60 frames a second. So just in case you need to see that, I don't really know why you would, but it is there. Next, we have the HDMI output, in which case we can say, hey, do we want to be in preview mode, which we currently are, or do we want to go into program mode where we see the actual live stream itself? And the reason you want to do this is simply right here. Maybe some people want to record into their Atomos Ninja 5, or maybe they have their own HDMI capture card and they don't want to do the whole OBS thing, or maybe they just don't want to go through the USB 3 protocol. Basically from here, you can actually select whether or not, here's actually something that happens quite a bit. The jog wheel here is super sensitive, and you just saw how I was going all over the place. That is a design flaw of this thing, kind of a con, but once you do all your normal setups, not a big deal. So basically what I'm saying is if you're going into your Ninja 5 or you're going into something else, you can actually choose your frame rates here all the way up to 60p, 50, 30, and as you see here, 25, 24, it's bouncing all over the place, and we have a couple other things here too. So basically that's what that's for. Next, we have the USB 3, which is essentially the same thing. How do you want your OBS or your video capture to see this? We have it on program because I want you to actually see the full stream. Next, we have audio. This is super important. Right now, I have it set to input number 1, which is my Sony a7S III, and I'm also plugged in to a Rode NTG, video mic NTG going straight into my camera. Now, the reason this is important is because anytime I switch cameras, I want it to only use the audio from my Sony a7S III. And you can, of course, change this up if you want your audio source to come in from camera 2, camera 3, camera 4, or if you want to go to the external source that I talked about. But in the original version, you were left with embedded, which means if I went to camera 2, you'll hear camera 2. If you hear camera 3, you'll hear camera 3. We don't want that. Generally speaking, you want to leave it on one source, and that's going to be pretty much it in terms of audio. Last but not least, we have IP settings, and this all has to do with setting it up with the computer as well as maybe doing firmware updates, and these are all pretty self-explanatory. Okay, so now let's go over into the effects over here. So if we click this once, it's going to ask us, hey, how would you like to mix? Because right now we're currently on cut. Well, we can change that to fade. And basically, we fade into here, we fade over back. And of course, you have a whole bunch of options here. So if we went with this one, we swipe over and then we swipe back. We're going to leave it at cut though, because that's pretty much what I like to use. Next up, if you click this SW button again, we go to this mode over here. Now you have a choice of fast, or you can do T-bar, which is this thing down over here. So if I go to T-bar, basically what's happening here is we are saying, hey, I want to queue up my face next, but I don't want to cut to it just yet. I want to cut right now. So therefore you see how I cut back to my face, and then I can move the bar back to basically, you can switch between two things, but you can also switch over to the computer if you want to. So maybe the next cut is going to go to the computer, and then we're going to go back. Now, I don't really use this feature all that often. I'd rather just cut right away. So I'm going to go back to this setting here, and I'm going to move it back to fast, in which case you can choose if you want it to be half a second, 1 second, and I don't know what's the 5 seconds seems to be the longest it takes. We don't really need that. Next up, here's the coup de grace, the picture-in-picture, but there is a little caveat here, and I'm going to show you that right now. So basically speaking, what happens here is if we go into, let's say we're already looking at this, and we're going to go into one of the picture-in-picture orientation. I like this one the most. You'll notice that my face goes here, which is great, that's what we want. But if I wanted to switch the main screen to my computer, if I hit the computer button, you'll notice that it doesn't switch. The small box is the one that switches, and that's not what we want. Now, how are we going to combat this here? Basically, if you know that you want the computer to be the main focus and your face is going to be the second focus, then what you want to do is go over here and make sure you click on the source you actually want, which is our computer tutorial here. Then I'm going to kind of show you this for a second. Then you're going to go over to the picture-in-picture you want, okay? And once you click it, and then you click your face, now you are in the correct orientation. So if you're not going to be using the software or anything like that, just know whatever it is you want to be the main attraction, make sure you're on there first before you enter into picture-in-picture mode so that you can show your face. Now, the little box here, if you watch me wave my arms for a little bit, and I know this is going to be weird, but eventually, I'm looking at my other screen here, eventually you're going to see this horizontal line that flies up and cuts my arms off. We're still waiting. There it is. There it is. I don't know why this happens. It happens super slowly and just scans its way up. I'm going to guess that, I don't know, it can't necessarily handle processing two things at once through this core system. That's my best guess. I don't know, but it is something that's there, and I don't know if firmware upgrades are necessarily going to fix this. So Feelworld, this is something that happens. If you can fix it, awesome. If not, I don't think it's that big of a deal, because when you're in tutorial mode, you're not waving your arms like an octopus like I just did. So without further ado, let's actually make our way back out of this picture-in-picture mode, because we want to go back here. Now, the only thing that navigating this effects menu is kind of off is because you basically have to click it to even get to picture-in-picture mode. I wish I could program this right away, and well, that might actually be something in the software menu where the moment you click on this button, that it goes to picture-in-picture mode. But if you never ever download the app, then this is how it works. So I know I keep talking about that app just now, and there are plenty of other reviewers that have already done a really wonderful breakthrough of how the apps works. So I'm just going to link that up there because it's really redundant for me to cover the exact same thing, and I want to show some love to the community. So definitely check out those videos if you want to work with the app. Last but not least, we have a couple more things here. If you click on this button down here when you're in the main menu, this actually affects your output monitor, okay? The one that's connected to the HDMI output. Basically what happens is when you click it, it says, hey, you're in program mode. And if you click it again, you go to preview mode. Not really sure why that's a thing, but I guess if you're in recording externally, you can do that. Last but not least, over here, if you click down, this is actually controlling your volume. And it's not the volume of your headphones that you would plug in here. It's actually the volume of the audio input going into here and going to your computer, which is awesome because depending on how you have your gain staging set, this is another gain stage that you can do to kind of make everything much louder. So what's the bottom line here? Is this Feelworld LivePro L1 something you should be thinking about for your live streaming kit? Now, for me, I've never done any live streaming and I've never worked an HDMI switcher, but honestly speaking, I really didn't play with this a whole lot, and I was able to figure out what actually goes on and how to get things set up. In fact, I spent more time learning how to program OBS to record than anything else. So in terms of ease of use, perfectly awesome. It's nice and easy to work with, and you don't necessarily need to download the app if you don't want to. Now, this does come in at $300, and the original Blackmagic A10 Mini, I believe, was also $300, and they're both 1080p systems. But the one thing that the Blackmagic did not have is this screen right here. You basically would have to either already know what's going on, or you would have had to connect your own little monitor to see what's actually happening in terms of your broadcast. Well, with this, it's fairly simple. You have this screen, it's there. I would actually say that the Feelworld for $300 is probably good for the person that just wants an HDMI switcher that can do their live streams, has a bunch of built-in effects, and just get ready to go. For the more professional that wants to fine-tune a couple more things, I would say the Blackmagic probably makes more sense. Now, in terms of some cons here, the one con that I can think of is, actually there's two. So it's not a USB-C cable that you get. You have a USB-A to USB-A, which is one of those older types of data transferring cables. Now, yes, you can buy some of those, and I have one on order right now because the one they give you is only about, I would say, maybe 1.5 feet, so it's really not that long. And I tried to use an extension cord to get it over to my my computer, but the problem is that extension cable actually degraded the signal to the point where it actually just didn't work anymore. And any images that came through were very laggy and they weren't sharp like you're seeing right now. So I kind of wish that they just would have done a USB-C cable that's very widely available for us to buy. But otherwise, I'm going to see if buying another type of data cable will eventually work out. And if it does work out, then I will leave a description down below to let you know that yes, this specific extension cable does not degrade the signal and you can safely use it. The second con that I would say is this unit on the bottom gets hot. I'm not saying warm. Warm is like, I don't know, coffee that's been sitting out for a little bit and you want to reheat it up. That's warm to me. This is hot to the touch. It's not going to burn you, but it is hot. Now, they did say they came out with an upgraded version. I think I have the original version here, but the updated version, I guess, has more ventilation, not a fan inside. I don't know if they updated the components, but they say it should help with heat. Whether or not this is going to be damaging to the circuits inside in the long run, I don't know. I'm assuming it should be fine, but I don't know. This is a little bit hot than I would assume an electronic to be. So if you want to buy this, I would say probably buy the upgraded version instead of the test unit that I have right here, because electronics just shouldn't be this hot to the touch, especially as you're operating it. So that all being said, do I recommend it? Yes. You're a beginner, you don't want to do anything, you just want to plug this into your computer, use it for Zoom, use it for live streaming, or in which case I do want to do more live streaming, or I might be able to do live reviews, because having the ability to go between 1 to 4 different outputs and even using my computer, it would make a very streamlined setup in terms of how I would do reviews, whether I'm just doing it regularly or if I'm doing it live. So I'm definitely going to be playing around with this quite a bit more often. If you want more advanced setup features, like I said, Blackmagic probably makes the better sense, but if you want something that's run and gun, plug it in, you don't need to go into the software app, you can do this with the Feelworld LivePro L1. And without further ado, guys, that is it for this week's video. If you want to purchase this, I have some affiliate links down below. Again, this costs nothing extra to you, just gives me a little compensation so I can continue making videos like this for you. And as always, if you have any questions or comments, go ahead and leave it down below. I will get to them as fast as I can. And until then, like, subscribe, and share, and I'll see you guys in the next one.